Good morning. I know you can't see me and I'm going to pace. I can't take any more. I can't take any more of Philip DeFranco's baloney. So this morning, we're going to see if we can't get his attention. Watch and see what he's putting on out there for everyone to see.
To go to church, to be inside that building.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Aren't you concerned you could infect other people if you get sick inside?
No.
People who don't go to this
No.
church.
I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus'
But what
blood.
about other people who don't go to this church who you might encounter?
All of these people go to this church.
No, but you're going to be in places where other people
I go to the
are.
grocery store every day. I'm in Walmart,
What?
Home Depot, all of those
But you
people.
could get them sick from what happens.
They could get me sick, but they're not because I'm covered in his blood. Thank you very much.
How is that a real person that exists in the same world I do, that has the same access to the same information that I do, but Corona Karen out there can't be bothered? Welcome to the Philip DeFranco Show, the show where apparently I, and possibly you, slowly slip further and further into madness as the coronavirus.
Absolutely. He's slipping further and further into madness. So that's where we're going to start the show this morning. Thank you to everybody for joining me this morning. I can't believe that this gentleman, his name's Philip DeFranco, and he has been wearing this t-shirt. It's appropriate. Facts matter. And he is disseminating so much wrong information, it's just unbelievable. Now, I'm going to play for you the full video about the interview by CNN. So moreover, this information's coming from CNN. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Trump hat because I am a Republican and I am conservative, just so I can continue to try to get Philip to actually respond and invite me on his show so he could carry his message along with mine and we could counter each other and banter and people would get both sides of the story, not just his skewed side of the story. And of course, CNN, and you watch this video, I'll caution you, the story really is skewed to one side, and we'll kind of review that as we go here. But let's watch the full video.
From Don Winslow, one of the most honored and acclaimed authors in the world, comes the most talked about book of the summer, Broken. Now on sale everywhere books are sold.
Driving out of this Ohio parking lot is a woman who just attended a church service.
All right. All right, now we'll try it again. Sorry about that.
Driving out of this Ohio parking lot is a woman who just attended a church service. Inside that building.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Aren't you concerned you could infect other people if you get sick inside?
No.
People who don't go to this
No.
church.
I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus'
But what
blood.
about other people who don't go to this church who you might encounter?
All of these people go to this church.
No, but you're going to be in places where other people
I go to the
are.
grocery store every day. I'm in Walmart,
What?
Home Depot, all of
But
those
you
people.
could get them sick from what happens.
They could get me sick, but they're not because I'm covered in his blood. Thank you very much.
90 minutes earlier, we
Interesting. Now all of a sudden the video won't play. I wonder why that is.
No matter how you come into this world, you come out broken. From Don Winslow, one of the most honored and acclaimed authors in the world, comes the most talked about book of the summer, Broken. Now on sale everywhere books are sold.
And you're going to buy that book because we're going to see it about 10 times. For some reason, we can't get
Driving
rid
out
of
of
it.
this Ohio parking lot is a woman who just attended a church service with dozens of other people, including children.
Be inside that building.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Aren't you concerned you could infect other people if you get sick inside?
No.
People that don't go to this
No.
church.
I'm covered in Jesus' blood. I'm covered in Jesus'
But what
blood.
about other people who don't go to this church who you might encounter?
All of these people go to this church.
No, but you're going to be in places where other people
I go to the
are.
grocery store every day. I'm in Walmart,
What?
Home Depot, all of
But
those
you
people.
could get them sick from what happens in
They
the
could
church.
get me sick, but they're not because I'm covered in his blood. Thank you very much.
90 minutes earlier, we watched as people arrived at this evangelical congregation, the Solid Rock Church in Cincinnati. This couple about to walk in with a toddler and a baby. And then there is this woman and man arriving. The woman hugs the man. That same man hugs the woman inside. The arriving woman hugs the man inside. And then she hugs the woman. Church leaders would not talk to us on camera, but have posted this statement which implicitly refers to the pandemic and adds, for that reason, we believe that the doors of Solid Rock Church should remain open. The church says it practices social distancing inside, but the pastors would not allow us in, so we have no way of confirming that. Either way, it doesn't address the potential dangers of large gatherings. What if one person is infected? You're all in that building together. It's a large
I am
gathering.
absolutely not concerned.
The blood of Jesus cures every disease. Psalms 91, read it.
You can get somebody else sick if you get sick inside.
Well, what if you got it? You can get me sick.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, very good, huh?
There's not one person sick
How do you know?
because I know I'm the pastor.
How do you know?
Because I would hear about it if somebody was sick.
Well, you could be asymptomatic, sir.
You better not print no fake news about me, or you'll hear from me.
What we heard were a lot of people who made up their minds. This man, though, sounded a bit different.
I see both sides of the story.
You do see both sides, though.
Oh yeah, I see both sides.
Why not just pray on the internet, pray with your family?
So
right now?
notice how close he is
called-
to him,
it's called,
because they're talking 10 feet now. So he's out
Values and liberty.
having this
You have the
interview,
choice as an
out
American.
But if
ta
you're
talking to
infected, sir,
person
and
after
you go
person
into
as they
the
walk,
grocery
drive out of
store
the
and you
church
run into
service.
someone and get them infected, that's
Why
not
not? Why not flip it the other way?
That could happen too.
You
But
know?
you're increasing your chance of getting them sick, right?
Could be.
Garrett joins us now. Are there congregants at all you talked to, or who weren't, I guess weren't there, who aren't happy that the church is staying open?
Yes, there's a number of congregants who are not happy
Now get this.
that this church has stayed open. We talked to two of them yesterday. They love this church, but they are not going inside the church. They think it's a bad decision to leave the church open, but they did not want to talk on camera. They did not want to give their names because they don't want to ostracize themselves from their friends in the church. We did talk to one who was
Video hookup so congregants can worship at home and attend services online?
So traditionally they do have
So
a-
pay attention here
you
now.
just see the preacher.
Things
you
that
don't
you're
see the
hearing
people in the
here
crowd. So yes,
important.
you can pray that way, and a lot of people do pray that way. But
Right.
as far as only praying that way, they're staying open for now.
Now, what's
From Don
important? Hang on a
Winslow,
second.
one of the most
All
honored
right, because here we go. Now, what's important about what you're hearing is what's behind the scenes and what's important to this country. So you've got CNN, a broadcasting station that is known to be very liberal and very Democrat, and that they are pushing an agenda that no matter what you're hearing, we were, as a country, a portion of the people in this country were supporting and continue to support Bernie Sanders, who wants to push a socialist agenda. I mean, you can't argue that point. He is looking to push that agenda. And now Joe Biden, who is taking the lead because they want to hide that idea, and Joe Biden isn't out verbally presenting that information to people and carrying that same message. The Democrats are saying, okay, well, let's have Joe Biden be in there, who, number one, can't keep his story straight. Number two, might have some issues with being able to remember things. And we want a gentleman like that in front of the the switches for the bombs. I mean, they all say it. I mean, they talk about Trump being in charge of the bombs, and they talk about Trump being crazy. So, I mean, let's talk about all of the antics of Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and make sure we're making an informed decision. That being said, these comments, the first thing that's important is that first woman recognized that he's out there harassing people. If he's not supposed to be there, why is he there? And he's at least close enough to be within 6 feet, and they're saying they should be more than that. And so he's as big a hypocrite as PHILLIP DEFRANCO, because people are trying to go to gather for religious beliefs. If their belief system says, hey, I'm going to continue to go to church, this is what's going to help me get through this, and I don't want to do it online. I'm not going to have someone in this country tell me I can't gather. In fact, my right to gather is protected under the Constitution. And I'm really sick and tired of them pushing a message that tells people to stay home and get online. Now, I appreciate people staying online because I want you to watch my show. I still get up after I'm done with my show and I go out and work in my farm, and I go out and I go get some groceries and I talk to people, and I try to live a life here that isn't suppressed by the government. I mean, that's what I'm supposed to be able to do. That's why I live in this country. And you gotta look at these broadcasts because there's a message they're trying to present to you that you'll get comfortable with and be okay with by not going out. That this disease somehow is worse than the flu. So since I said that, let's look at some data that I brought together this morning because it's interesting. Here is a chart. Sorry, I'm going to scroll in a bit first. Here is a chart, figure 2. This is from the CDC website. Estimated U.S. influenza burden by season. So they have it by year. Okay? They have it by year, and you go along and look at doot-de-doo, it started to get worse. I mean, just out of curiosity, 2012 to 2013, don't you think this borders on a pandemic? I mean, to go from where it was and it dropped and woohoo, we're all probably pretty happy, and then the next year it goes up higher than 2 years before and triples from the year before, and nobody said a thing. And look, let's zoom in here. How many people died? Let's look at... Deaths are yellow. So 570,000 people were hospitalized over the year, meaning 250,000 people hit the hospitals across the country. And across the country, we had 43,000 deaths, and nobody cared. We didn't shut down the country. We didn't do anything. Now, let's address this whole social distancing thing. This seems to be the new keyword that people are trying to push out there. And what were we doing before that when the flu came? So, I mean, I can't remember a time in my house when my wife and I are dealing with the flu that we're not trying to stay distant from each other when we think we might be sick, and we try to make sure we wash our hands, and we try to make sure we sterilize the house, and we try to, if we're sick when we're out, try to stay away from people. We have been practicing social distancing with the flu forever. This is not a new concept, and if you disagree with me, then you're just being a liar. All right? So we always, related to being sick, practice some kind of social distancing. And if they're going to tout social distancing as the reason this works and the reason that they're somehow doing better, then they're going to have to deal with the fact that the CDC also has a chart. Let's go here. This is the chart of the flu as new cases were presented. And if you look at this chart, it was already starting to flatten. That's why I said starting to flatten before they shut the country down. This flat part here was not related to the country, and we still aren't achieving anywhere near what we're going to do with the flu this year. So no matter what they're trying to portray in the media with their curves and the deaths and the problems, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. I understand New York saying they're having a problem, but you know what? Who's gone there and visited every hospital in New York? Every single one in New York City. Every single one in the state of New York. Who's gone out into California and visited every hospital in California? Who's come to Wisconsin and visited every hospital in Wisconsin? The numbers do not match the hysteria. Okay, so you need to get on the CDC site. In addition to that, let's watch a little bit more of Phil, and we'll respond to some of Phil's baloney.
This pandemic
Notice,
exposes
facts
all
matter.
the idiotic people that exist in our world.
So he's calling you an
Hey,
idiot if
buckle
you don't
up,
agree
hit
with
that
him.
like button and let's just jump into it. The first thing we're going to talk about today is actually not Corona Karen, though she is part of the problem, though in a different way. To start things off today, we're going to talk about the 5G conspiracy theories going around and the people enabling and promoting it, like Woody Harrelson. So if you're unaware, there is this conspiracy theory out there that has been flagged as fake news that 5G towers and 5G radiation could be acting as an accelerator for COVID-19. And among those who to some degree have been promoting misinformation, you had
So, I mean, if this is misinformation, and it probably is, it sounds pretty ridiculous. Why has he even got it on his show? I mean, I never even had heard about it. But he's trying to bring light to more hysteria.
although in his defense he does get punched in the head for a living, as well as, and this personally hurts me because I'm a fan, Woody Harrelson, who among other things shared a writing from Dr. Martin Pall claiming that the spread of the virus developed roughly as the number of 5G antenna in Wuhan rose, with the caption, "My friend Camilla seems this to me," I think he meant sends this to me today, "and though I haven't fully vetted it, I find it very interesting." And then I guess he deleted the rest of the caption, "So I guess it's completely fine to promote to my 2 million followers." And then following it up with this video and the caption.
I just love that. He's going after Woody Harrelson for promoting something he wants to promote. And we all know Woody's a little off the charts. And if you take him for what he portrays as an actor and as a public figure, you know you've got to take what Woody says with a grain of salt. And you probably need to look it up yourself, because Woody is going to be contrary on everything. And God bless you, Woody, for throwing out there a contrary idea so that people actually have to do some searches, and just maybe they'll find the truth. And so where PHILLIP DEFRANCO is trying to go after Woody, and he says, "Oh, you know, I'm really a big fan," and you should be a big fan, Phil, because he's out there pushing a contrary idea so that people start listening and looking and searching and hopefully run into real data. And we're going to get to the real data here as we go through the show. But I just want you to understand that Phil's issues are such that he wants to just go after people and call them stupid because for some reason he loves staying at home. Now remember, he stays at home every day and he gets paid a lot of money. So it doesn't matter if the government shuts down. It doesn't matter that people are going out of work, because he's still getting his check. And the last time I checked, he hasn't announced in this episode that he's going to take the $357 a week or whatever state he lives in, their amount of unemployment they pay, and then donate the rest of his income to people that he chooses who are having a tough time. He's got 6 million followers. So he's getting on Woody Harrelson's case about what he's presenting, and he has 6 million followers. His views are somewhere in the hundreds of thousands each day, and he's presenting misinformation with a t-shirt that says facts matter. Well, Phil, how about you get the facts right? All right, and quit picking the facts that over-sensationalize what's going on and just continue to create more fear. And when I see your show and you're watching CNN and you're going after Trump, it pretty much tells me you're pushing a Bernie Sanders agenda, and you like the fact that the government's getting people to stay home, and you want the government to be able to control us. And you know what? God bless the people who are going to tell you to go to hell, because I'm the first one, if you haven't heard it yet, to tell you to go to hell, because I'm not going to live in that kind of world. All right? It doesn't work, never worked, and that's not what this country's about. And we've done pretty well so far.
Meanwhile, the Chinese are bringing 5G antennas down. Which also, once again, Woody, this is fake news that I'm sure you'll leave on the internet forever, because Why not? And to clarify, this video does depict a real incident that happened in China, but one, it wasn't even filmed in 2020, it had nothing to do with 5G, and it had nothing to do with COVID-19. Rather, the video in question was from 2019. It had anti-surveillance protesters tearing down a smart lamppost in Hong Kong. Now, among those who have been speaking out against this conspiracy theory that some have referred to as dangerous nonsense, are the likes of the UK's Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport, tweeting, "We are aware of inaccurate information being shared online about 5G. There is absolutely no credible evidence of a link between 5G and coronavirus," as well as linking to Full Fact's research on this, which I'll link to down below. Full Fact, if you don't know, is an independent fact-checking charity in the UK, and they debunked the theory with real science. And in their research, they note the two theories given to support the 5G claim are flawed. Regarding theory 1, that electromagnetic radiation from 5G suppresses the immune system, helping the virus to thrive. Regarding that, the level of radiation from 5G is far below levels of electromagnetic radiation thought to cause damage to cells in the human body. And to actually go much deeper into that, they explain, radio waves are found at the low frequency end of the spectrum, and alongside microwaves, visible light, and heat only produce non-ionizing radiation. This means that these waves cannot damage
So because
the
they use
DNA
big
inside
words, that
cells,
makes
which is
them
how
an
waves
expert.
with
I
higher
mean, just be
frequencies,
careful
such
about
as
what you see
X-rays,
on the
gamma
internet.
rays, and ultraviolet light are thought to cause cancer. And so they go on to explain, to improve the speed and capacity of our wireless technology,
Then remember,
5G
this all
uses a higher
supports
frequency of
Phil's
radio waves compared to its older generation.
video
The
and the
frequency of this
information
new
he's showing
wireless
on his
technology
video.
remains very low. And noting that the maximum levels of electromagnetic radiation measured by Ofcom were about 66 times smaller than the safety limits set by international guidelines. Regarding the second theory, that, quote, viruses talk to each other when making decisions about infecting a host, they write, this is not true. One, the hypothesis there is disputed, and two, it refers to bacteria and not viruses like the new coronavirus. As well as that you don't even need to know anything about anything fact that the coronavirus is spreading in places that don't even have 5G towers. Iran, for example, one of the hardest hit countries, and they don't even have a 5G tower. Right, and so I share all of that, one, in hopes that we can all learn, and also, two, that we can share this information to people that are being misled by very clickable fear-mongering. And I also think that's part of the reason why it's probably so
pretty much
frustrating for me and so
fear-mongering as
frustrating
well.
for so many of you, is it feels and it is an uphill battle. Truth very rarely beats out fear and panic. That's an unfortunate truth that we witness every single day. And this isn't a holier than thou thing. None of us are immune from this.
See that? He in his own words, he admits that truth very rarely outweighs whatever becomes sensationalized, whatever becomes the keyword for the day, the grab word for the day, and he's as much at fault of that as anyone.
We need to try our best every single day. With all that said, come on, Woody. Then, in a situation that's still developing, it's really blowing up today. Let's talk about Ezra Miller. You may know Miller from a number of things, including the Fantastic Beasts franchise, as well as being The Flash. And there's a 7-second video that popped up last night that appears to show, well, I'll just let you watch it.
Learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal? Whoa, bro. Fight?
And so that clip generated a lot of confusion. A number of people wonder.
So again, he's picking something that we don't know what that video is, and his conclusion really shouldn't be out there because he didn't interview this individual. He didn't interview the individual that's in the video that may be having an altercation. There are staged videos all the time, and listen to his message.
Is this a joke, a bit, a misunderstanding? Is Ezra actually attacking this girl? Everything seems so oddly paced and off. Right, just with people online, as well as you'll notice with almost all of the reporting, a lot of the language is similar with headlines like, Ezra Miller appears to choke a woman in an alarming video. Right, because you're just injected into the situation, everything just feels off. But according to Variety, they confirmed that this incident took place around 6 p.m. on April 1st at a trendy bar that Miller frequents when in town. Also saying the source confirmed that this was a serious altercation. And Variety goes on to say, according to a source at the bar, the altercation took place after the individual identified as Miller was confronted by a group of eager fans who were, quote, quite pushy. Things then escalated with Miller losing their temper at one woman in particular. Then going on to say that staff escorted the actor who was upset and angry off the premises, with a number of outlets reaching out for comment, but so far I've seen none. So we're gonna keep our eyes open to see what happens next, as does Ezra respond. There also appears to be some claims that have gone overlooked because the original poster of this video deleted it. I want to be able to independently verify those things because there's really not any coverage of that yet. Yeah, we're gonna leave this for now. Or what are your thoughts around just that clip? But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today and awesome, brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, a website, an online store, a whatever, make it with Squarespace. You know, Squarespace empowers people to create their online web presence or launch their passion project. And everyone, especially now, can find a home on Squarespace. From entrepreneurs and small business owners to photographers, bloggers, vloggers, musicians, actors, fashion designers, and so much more, they all trust and use Squarespace for their website needs. And a big thing is there is nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. Creating a beautiful website with Squarespace's all-in-one platform has never been so simple. It's extremely intuitive, easy to use.
So just in case you're just joining us or you've continued to watch, I just want to offer that and to ask that you subscribe to my channel and that you like this video and that you share this video. So, I mean, all that aside, even if you don't subscribe, even if you don't indicate that you like the video, maybe you don't have a YouTube account and you just watch YouTube because you like watching YouTube and you don't want to have an account, you don't want to deal with that. But to be honest with you, in the world today, being able to get notifications like when I come live or somebody puts out a video that you might want to watch and see some kind of opinion may be important. And YouTube, as I've come to learn over the years, is a great source. I'm sure you have. I mean, I learned how to create apps on YouTube. I watched YouTube videos every day and taught myself how to write apps for Apple. And there's a lot of information that's very true and very helpful, and just like the TV, you just got to weed through it. So there's so much to be gained by having a channel, or not a channel, just an account, and being able to get those alerts so that if you were subscribed to my channel, when I go live like this at 9 o'clock, you'd get an alert. And maybe you're sitting at home, maybe you're just having the day off and you want to watch my channel and you want to watch the live broadcast. We, of course, always produce this live broadcast and it's available at any time, but maybe you want to watch it live because it's just that much fun. We would love to see you with us each day at 9 a.m. and helping to grow the channel by sharing it and encouraging other people to join us live and to send chats and call in. And of course, our phone number is 715-352-0801, and call in and let's talk. I mean, I want contrary views. I want to have civil discourse about issues and bring data so that people can get both sides of the story, and then you can just decide what you want. That's the coolest thing about this country. That's the coolest message that's being sent, is that we get to make a choice. We get to choose whether we agree with what people are telling us we need to do. In the case of states right now, one person is telling all of their constituents what to do. And the legislatures are doing nothing, and you should be concerned about that one as well. But in any event, please, if you agree or would like people to have contrary information today, share this video. I'd love to see this go to millions of people and have them view it and even say, oh man, that guy's nuts. I'm fine. If you think what I'm saying isn't true or you don't agree with it, that's awesome. Keep doing it. But you might hear what I have to say, and you might get on the internet, and you might search it out, and you might contact me and say, hey, what do you think of this article? And I'll say, hey, that seems pretty good. Let me take a look. And I'll do some research, and we'll get back to it, and I'll bring it on the show, and we'll discuss it. And then if you're available, we can call in, and we can talk about it together. And we can talk about it right on the spot. I'm not afraid to talk about anything on the phone at any time. So give me a call, and let's talk. On that note, let's start Phil again.
Their award-winning marketing tools and analytics. Squarespace
He's making sure he makes some money right here, right?
Online presence and run your business. It also doesn't hurt that you can get personalized support from their award-winning customer.
Don't get me
care
wrong,
team
I'm working on the same things, but
whatever you need,
again, like I said, we're living on $357 a week.
Go ahead and start your free trial today at squarespace.com/Phil and enter in to get 10% off your first purchase. And the first bit of awesome today is you beautiful bastard. Granted, I don't know 99.9% of you, and I'm thrusting this label of awesome upon you with literally no information. Healthy guess, I think 75% of you are deserving of that label, and for the other 25%, I usually don't let reality stop me from being nice to someone. We all need a little win now and then. Then, fantastically, we got episode 2 of Some Good News with John Krasinski. Let Me Explain Studios gave us Bitten while defending a friend. Simply Nailogical tried the worst rated Amazon nail products, an act that I imagine killed her soul. Ellen Stone was on NPR Music Tiny Desk Concert. SciShow gave us 5 dinosaur dinners and what they told us. And not a sponsor, but if you're looking for more entertainment today, Quibi just launched. I don't know if I'm going to hate it or like it or just forget about it in a week, but it does exist now. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything at all, links as always are in the description down below. And then, actually, let's come back to Corona Karen. And the reason we're going back is it's actually part of a much broader and and larger debate. Right, so yesterday, when that clip was filmed, it was Palm Sunday, and people all over the United States congregated in churches. This, despite warnings from many, including the Trump administration, about gatherings of 10 or more people and explicit bans in some places. And Corona Karen's Jesus blood comments aside, this is a really complicated and sticky situation because it does concern religious freedoms, and also because there's a lot of confusion about shelter-in-place and religious exemptions. And this is for a few reasons. First,
now, that assumes you agree with shelter in place. Just because the governor said you need to shelter, and I don't take the governor to tell me what to do. I elected people to represent me. So he's one part of the executive powers that run this state. And that is, you've got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branches. Now, it's beyond me. And again, no matter what I do, I call, I email, I text, and there's no response from our legislature here in Wisconsin. But that aside, you know, if you don't agree with the stay in place or stay at home or whatever goofy label they've come up with, but you agree with social distancing like you've been doing your whole life when you got the flu, nobody's doing anything here but living their lives and understanding that if you don't want to transfer the virus, then don't. Do whatever you want to do. Some people stay home from work. Some people don't leave their homes when they have the flu because they think to themselves, well, if I come in contact with someone older and they get the flu and then get the influenza and then maybe they get a bronchitis or they get pneumonia and die because they're 75 years old, you know, hey, I don't want to do that. And they can do that. And as a person who may not be sick, doesn't want to get sick, I may not put myself in situations where I'm close to people during the flu season. I might try to actually keep myself distant and clean areas a little more frequently. And that's how you keep the virus from spreading. Not pounding everybody to go home, making the economy go in the tank, having them lose their jobs. I mean, what is the ultimate objective here? Their data does not present that we're going to have a 100 to 240,000 deaths in this country. It's just not going that way. And it wouldn't have gone that way because this curve was flattening even before they shut the whole place down. So let's continue to listen to Phil here. And again, that's the point of my show today is
it's hard to pin down.
I'm a little tired of Phil and his
Shelter-in-place orders have exemptions on religious gatherings. According to the New York Times right now, 41...
The best way to stop this country is to keep people from gathering. The power we gain from gathering for any reason, whether you agree with it or not, we've seen it all year. We saw it when there were issues with gun control. I mean, children from schools got in buses and went to D.C. and gathered and protested or asked for the government to do something. There is nothing wrong with that. Now, while I may not agree with their message, that is exactly what this country is about. And if you don't get from these videos and you don't get for what is being pushed by the socialist agenda, they want you at home. They want you not going out. They want you doing exactly as you're told by a small group of people. And if not just one person, that's what they want. Remember that through whatever you hear. I'm not talking about Medicare for all. I'm not talking about how they want to spend money. I'm talking about how they want to control what you do and where you go. Because that's what socialist countries do. That's first and foremost. And then they do whatever they want. In most cases, they don't do what's in the best interest of the citizens. They give them just enough so they don't die. But in some cases, they don't care if you die or not. I mean, in China, there's so many of them. Maybe that's why they do what they do with those people. I mean, you got to really deal with hard facts. And I'm sorry if those facts are hard to swallow, but that's what they are.
3 counties, 8 cities, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico are being urged to stay home. In some places like California, in-person religious gatherings have been outright banned throughout the entire state. But in others, it's not as clear-cut, and it's not helped by the fact that there's been a lot of misreporting on how many states have religious exemptions. For example,
Misreporting.
today, CNN, right, in that video, they said 14, but a lot of other sources say the number is actually closer to 11. And part of the confusion and misreporting is due to the fact that some states explicitly list religious gatherings as exempt from shelter-in-place laws. But according to reports, other states like Alabama and South...
Is he absolutely insane? I need someone to give me a list now of where I can go. So I'm going to get this emailed each morning. Okay, because there's so many places you can't go, here are the 2 places you can go. You can go to your house, then you can get in your car. Now what? Oh, but you can go to the grocery store. The woman on that video nailed it on the head. I mean, in 1 minute we're saying social distancing and staying at home, and the next minute we're saying one of the biggest places to transmit the disease at the grocery store. But that's fine. Don't worry. They touched that avocado and you touched it. Now you got it. Don't worry. They thought they wanted to buy some bologna. Nah, put it back. And then they don't even talk about the biggest way we transfer virus and bacteria in this country every single day. When you pay for something and you take that dollar bill or that $10 or that $100 bill and you hand it to the teller and that teller grabs it, what do you think happens? Because you had to dig it out of your pocket, and if you got the virus, then you're giving it right to that teller. And then what's that teller doing? That teller's putting it in the cash drawer. And then they're taking it back out. And if they didn't get it when they grabbed it from you, they got it when they took it out. Now, let's just say you didn't have it, but now that teller who has it takes that dollar bill. Now, they put it in the cash box, and then somebody else comes up and they grab the cash box and they hand it to the person. The RO factor that they put out from the CDC has been blown out of proportion at that point. It's not even really relevant, because you got one person who's sick touching all that money and handing it to person after person after person after person. So what, you think we're going to just stop going to the grocery store because somehow we're going to get introduced to this bacteria? The stupidity is mind-boggling.
The line on signed orders closing down non-essential businesses that, instead of listing exceptions to the rule, provided a list of entities that would have to close. Those lists did not specifically mention religious facilities. There's also an issue with overlapping authority, right? Decisions made at the state level versus the county and city level. Right? For example, last week we talked about Florida megachurch pastor Rodney Howard-Brown, who was arrested for holding service despite the shelter-in-place order in Hillsborough County. Then, just a few days after that, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis passed a statewide safer-at-home order that explicitly allowed religious gatherings, with DeSantis saying, "There's no reason why you can't do a church service with people spread 10 feet apart. So we definitely ask them to abide by social distancing guidelines, but I think in times like this, the service they are providing is very important for people." Also, regarding churches, there is a debate around the
service they are providing is very important to people. People need hope, and many people in this country find hope in their church. No matter what kind of religion you practice, a lot of people garner hope and make who they are about being at the church. And the major component of being in church is the community and the gathering. And now we can't, as a community, when we gather in our faith, whatever that faith is, maybe you're not religious, maybe you have a different faith, maybe you gather with people that you just really like. But we've protected that ability here in this country to gather and discuss whatever you want. Maybe you don't like the president. A lot of people don't. Maybe you don't like what the government's doing. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And the whole point is we have the choice to do it.
Amendment, right? Religious institutions are largely believed to be protected from regulations in the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has ruled that a law cannot unduly burden a religion unless there is a compelling
Back again to the Constitution.
So, a pandemic can be considered compelling as a
Phil,
bigger and
Constitution.
Constitutional debate. Right? There's basically no legal precedent for this. And last week we also saw a similar situation to the one in Florida playing out in Texas. There we saw 3 pastors join a
and there's no precedent at this point to say we even need to be doing what we're doing. Again, sorry. Phil's pissing me off.
In a lawsuit against Harris County, where Houston is, after a stay-at-home order in the county was implemented and barred religious gathering. Governor Greg Abbott also signed a statewide shelter-in-place order that allowed religious gatherings a few days later. Right, so it's this confusing back and forth between state and local governments, mixed messaging from leaders. And finally, to bring it back to Karen, the church that lady was leaving was reportedly at the Solid Rock Church in Monroe, Ohio. And that church had specifically been asked by the town's mayor to stop holding in-person services and rejected those requests. But once again,
good for them.
Ohio, weird mixed messaging. You have Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, who has said any pastor who brings people together in close proximity to each other, a large group of people, is making a huge mistake. It's not a Christian thing to do. But DeWine was the one who issued the order allowing for religious exemptions in the first place. And here's the thing, that's not the only problem, because even in places where there are very clear orders...
Because they don't know what to do. Because you got idiots like this portraying information that's just wrong. Because as much as we're dealing with COVID-19, we deal with the flu every year, and they sit in the church and they pass the flu around, and millions of people get the flu. Millions. In the U.S. We're not even at 1 million yet. And somehow this has become a bigger issue.
banning religious gatherings, some churches are just outright ignoring them. Like, for example, in Louisiana, where Pastor Tony Spell of the Life Tabernacle Church held services this past Sunday. This, despite the fact that he had been arrested for violating the state's order and holding services just a few days earlier. Also in Sacramento, you had the Bethany Slavic Missionary Megachurch reportedly still holding services even after 71 members of the congregation tested positive for the coronavirus. Though that church has now been shuttered as of this weekend. Though, notably, that is not the only place of worship where the virus is spread. Right, and I mention all of this not only because it's something that we've seen happen, but we also have the Easter and Passover holidays coming up. Right, so the question becomes, how many, what kind of gatherings are we going to see, and what kind of spread are we going to see from that? And then let's talk about this messy situation.
Now, you can't gather for Easter. We have so many people convinced that they shouldn't gather for Easter. As a group, they're not even sick. Now, again, my mom is in her 70s, and when one of us has the flu, we tend to not go to that gathering unless they feel comfortable with that. But as my mom has gotten older, we try to be sensitive to the fact that she could get really sick from the flu. And he doesn't talk about that. I mean, are you getting the tone here? All of this is being portrayed and nobody's talking about the flu. 32,000 people will die in this cycle alone. 32,000. And what are we at? About 8,000 so far with COVID-19? Why doesn't anybody care that the flu is going to kill 32,000 people and make millions of people sick? Don't care. That's just part of life. And vaccine, there's no vaccine for flu strains. There is no vaccine for viruses. Okay? We take a flu shot to introduce our immune system to a virus and build our immune system so that when it comes at us full force, we can fight it off. Older people get flu shots every year in an attempt to keep themselves from getting that sick. It's not a vaccine. We get vaccines that keep us from getting sick with the measles or the mumps or chickenpox forever. We never have to take them again. But we take the flu shot, and it's termed a shot, not a virus. You cannot treat flu and cold symptoms that are just flu and cold. You have to get through them. You can't go to the doctor and get an antibiotic if you don't have an infection. When you get an infection like bronchitis or you get an ear infection, you start taking antibiotics, and then that helps to bring that inflammation down. So there are all kinds of factors that lead to being sick, and we can't do anything about it. You're going to get sick. And the people that are dying, the people are still who are putting out some true information are just in passing talking about the fact that still the majority is older people. There's an article out on the internet right now talking about Italy, that the majority of people that are dying in Italy are older. And okay, so how does that compare to how many people die from influenza in Italy? I mean, it's always tragic when we get it in front of us every day. Oh, 100 more people died today. But see, if you want to talk about tragedy, then you got to put all the deaths that occurred before COVID-19 and how many people in this country die every day before you start making this to be something serious. Because it's always terrible when someone dies. I don't want anybody to die. But we're not going to stop living because we're going to die. Is that what we're saying now? We're just going to stay home because if we do anything, we're going to die. That's ridiculous. I could die driving out here. I could die because somebody wants to break in my house. I could die because I got cancer. I could die, I could die, I could die, I could die. Yes, I could. But I choose to live my life to the fullest extent, but not worry about that because I can't. I can only hope that I'll be able to keep it away long enough to live and see and be and do everything I want to do with my life. And I don't like people like this trying to convince me and others that somehow staying at home and living in a box is the answer, because it's not. Unless that's what you want to do, then you should do that. But don't do it with me. I mean, if you want to live at home, literally, you can have all your groceries shipped to you now. Amazon's your best friend. You don't have to go anywhere. And we're seeing that with everything that's closing down. The more and more we're being pushed to this idea that it's okay to not go out. It's okay to not, do things because the government says so without any due process. And due process includes voting. Due process includes creating laws that support whatever the people of the country want to have done. Because when politicians make votes or cast votes and make decisions to cast votes, then they have to be responsible to the people. And right now, for example, in Wisconsin, the legislature is nowhere. They're not answering their phones. Their voice messages are full. If you watched my show yesterday, tried to call Scott Fitzgerald. No answer to anything. No answer to dealing with unemployment. No answer to dealing with the budget. No answer to the fact that when they talked about the budget prior to this, how much money we had left and how they wanted to get it back to the people. And there was some talk about lowering property tax. Well, why don't you just send the money to the people? Well, because now maybe we're not going to have a surplus because they're not going to have any, now we're not going to have any revenue because you're letting the governor shut this place down. So you're not talking sense, legislature and governor.
On hydroxychloroquine. So in an exclusive report from Axios, presidential trade advisor Peter Navarro heatedly confronted Dr. Anthony Fauci on Saturday over whether or not there has been, quote, clear evidence showing hydroxychloroquine's effectiveness against COVID-19. Reportedly, this began after the Commissioner of Food and Drugs, Stephen Hahn, began talking about hydroxychloroquine, right, which is an anti-malarial drug that's being investigated to possibly treat COVID-19 patients. President Trump has frequently touted it at press conferences, calling it a game changer for the United States. However, many scientists, including Dr. Fauci, have been a lot more cautious on how to present the drug to the public since it's not currently approved to treat.
Dr. Fauci should not be doing this. The drug that they're talking about has been being used and has not had the kind of side effects they're concerned about. Yes, if they created some new drug, of course we want to be concerned. In fact, if they come up with some other virus, some other vaccine, I'm probably not going to take it because I don't know what it's going to do because they haven't spent the time to figure it out. That is the worst thing to do. I would be more comfortable taking a drug that, whether it may or may not do 100%, if it has even a chance of helping me deal with and cope with the being sick with COVID-19, of course I'm going to take it. If it's a proven drug, people don't have huge side effects from it, it's not going to hurt. Where you need to be really informed that if they come out with some new hybrid, why you would want to take that, when it hasn't taken the time to determine what the actual side effects are, what impact it has. And do you understand the people that could die without taking the time to figure this out properly? And you're concerned about the 7,000 or 8,000 people that died. You get 5, 10 million, 20 million, 200 million people to take an unproven vaccine, they could all die. You get that? You take an unproven vaccine, you're not sure what's going on, and they could all die. And Fauci is fighting something that's already out there. Why? He doesn't need to. People can take it whether they want to or not. There are actors who have gotten their hands on it that have got COVID-19, and they feel like it's helped them be better. We can talk about placebos and the way a body responds to even the idea that something you're taking is going to fix you, and what your body does and how it responds versus being, oh my God, I'm going to die. So maybe some of what's happening when people take this drug is they're giving their body the signal that it's now time to fight it and fix it, and they're energized to do it because they believe that this thing is going to do it. Instead, we want to give people doubt. How about hope? Nothing is going to be hurt by taking that drug. We should be mass producing it and giving it to every single person that's got COVID-19. Absolutely, without question, because it's already proven people don't have problems with it, and it's not going to hurt anything. Give some people some hope, especially those people laying in a bed. In a hospital, sorry.
COVID-19. Also because it has a number of known side effects, including heart and vision problems. And really, the argument here is that it could work. But scientists want to make sure that the benefits outweigh the risks here before it gets widespread use. Okay, so
this isn't fact. This is an example of non-fact. He's pulling little bits and pieces. Every drug has side effects. And every drug, those side effects can be very small, and you need to make a decision on whether or not it's really going to occur. People have taken this drug for many, many years, and for him to present that, to again create doubt, is sensationalism and wanting to keep people at home. You got to read between the lines with this bullshit.
meeting, Han reportedly starts giving updates regarding different hydroxychloroquine trials. Navarro then gets up, and according to a source familiar with the situation, the first words out of his mouth are that the studies that he's seen, I believe they're mostly overseas, show clear therapeutic efficacy. Those are the exact words out of his mouth. Fauci then reportedly pushes back, saying that at the moment, the evidence for those studies and hydroxychloroquine's effectiveness is only anecdotal. Right? Notably, that's something we've heard him say publicly before. However, that comment reportedly sets Navarro off. According to the source, Navarro then pointed to those studies and said, "That's science, not anecdote." Reportedly, he then started yelling, accusing Dr. Fauci of objecting to Trump's travel restrictions, saying, "You were the one who early on objected to the travel restrictions with China." Dr. Fauci and others then reportedly looked confused, that likely because publicly, Fauci has in fact praised Trump's travel restrictions on China. Following that, you had Vice President Mike Pence and others reportedly trying to moderate the discussion, with a source saying it was pretty clear that everyone was just trying to get Navarro to sit down and stop being so confrontational. Eventually, Jared Kushner reportedly told Navarro to agree to accept that it was important to increase the supply of the drug in hot zones, and they then agreed that the administration's stance should be that the decision to use the drug is between patients and doctors prescribing it off-label. And this full situation isn't new. Dr. Fauci has been consistently trying to walk back a lot of Trump's language about this drug. According to the sources, the situation on Saturday was very notable because it was an escalation of that tech.
And if you're just joining me for the first time, or you've never seen PHILLIP DEFRANCO, please understand, PHILLIP DEFRANCO does not like Donald Trump, and he'll make every effort to try to make Donald Trump look bad. If you think about what's happening with all of the media, and you think about what's happening with all the information, President Trump is trying to deal with all of the varied comments and all of the varied hysteria, and trying to manage the hysteria and make decisions, and he's getting bad information, but yet he still has to try to rely on the people that he has put in place, because he gets a lot of flack for not relying on that information. But I can tell you, after listening to Fauci for all this time, that guy can't make a decision to save his life, and he's going to want us to all stay indoors for the next year or until it's all perfect. You need to understand, as far as Fauci is concerned, we all need to just stay home until we have a virus. We cannot leave our homes until we have a vaccine, not a virus, a vaccine. You need to understand that's the message Fauci's presenting. And I'm going to share with you an article from the director of the CDC, because Fauci is not the director of the CDC. All right, so let's keep going here. We're almost done.
Saying previously there was robust debate, but there's never been a confrontation. Yesterday was the first confrontation. Actually, this morning we saw Navarro speak on the disagreement and defend himself on CNN, saying,
"There's doctors disagree about things all the time. My qualifications in terms of looking at the science is that I'm a social scientist, I have a PhD, and I understand how to read statistical studies, whether it's in medicine, the law, economics, or whatever."
I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify you to treat patients. You know it doesn't qualify you to treat patients.
However, all of that aside, none of what happened over the weekend seemed to stop Trump from propping up the drug again. I mean, on Saturday, the same day as the reported argument, he said,
"What do you have to lose? It's been out there for a long time, and I hope they use it. And they're going to look at with doctors, work with doctors, get what you have to get, and I hope they use it because it's been used for a long time.
He's throwing a disclaimer in there.
And therefore, it's passed the safety test. In fact, I might do it anyway. I may take it. Okay? I may take it. And I'll have to ask my doctors about that, but I may take it."
Alongside that, you had Trump saying that the United States has stockpiled 29 million pills of hydroxychloroquine. We also saw him continue this push yesterday.
We don't have time to go and say, "Gee, let's take a couple of years and test it out. And let's go and test with the test tubes and the laboratories." We don't have time. I'd love to do that. But we
don't need to do that. The drug's already proven.
Also notably, yesterday we saw this moment.
And would you also weigh in on this issue of hydroxychloroquine? What do you think about this, and what is the medical evidence?
Yeah, I mean, all they want is to counter what President Trump's presentation was, but with Fauci, again, wanting everybody to stay in their homes for the rest of their life. I mean, he's going to go to one extreme, so am I. I mean, it's just ridiculous to listen to what these people who are supposed to be our leaders are doing. Even President Trump is having a hard time with it. And he's probably been beaten up for so long now, he's trying to make sure that the message he's sending is being heard. And really, because I'm intelligent, like I'm sure you are, you can read between the lines. The president is saying there's nothing wrong with that drug. It's proven. And what are you going to hurt by trying it if you talk to your doctor? And your doctor says, based on your health conditions, you shouldn't have any problem with this drug, and take it. Why not? I mean, the only issue right now is not, burning up the supply so people who could really benefit from it, who are sick, can get access to the drug. That's what really needs to be understood, is that if you're not sick, you don't need to take it. You shouldn't be out trying to get it. You shouldn't be trying to get it on the black market. You should let the health system manage the resources and give it to the people who are most in need and are the most sick, so that we can try to get enough of this drug to people and keep them from dying, and then also being able to produce it in time. Because if you're not that sick, just having to wait a little longer until we can get more made is important. And somehow they make us believe that there aren't companies out there pumping these drugs all day long. I mean, I would have to think pharmaceutical companies are an essential company, and they should be pumping drugs, and they should be pumping this drug out the door all day long. And the federal government, as I've said, is starting to stockpile it so that it's available to release to different healthcare officials, to different healthcare communities, to doctors, to whoever needs to get it. So let's listen to Phil and his baloney.
Maybe 15 times. You don't have to ask.
He's your medical expert, correct?
He's answered that question 15 times.
Yes, well, Dr. Fauci would have been likely saying the same thing that he has
He
been
would
saying.
be.
It is rather notable that Trump wouldn't let him say anything on the issue at all, especially when that he's been so vocal.
That's
about it.
actually
With all that said,
that's
one of the biggest questions here.
that's actually a president making a decision that the important issue isn't the fact that Fauci once again is going to counter him on whether or not we should be using that drug. To be honest with you, in the way that President Trump operates, he should simply fire this guy and get somebody who's going to provide some leadership and not try to keep us at home. I mean, there's a balance that has to be taken. Fauci wants us all to stay home forever. That's not balance. It's not true. It's not necessary. None of the data supports that idea. Well, if he's out there as our expert and our resource, he's not looking at the data, because he's carrying a message, he's using a model to promote fear and keep people staying home and agreeing with the government. Well, Fauci's telling them we're going to lose 240,000 people. Well, people, just do the math. How long is it going to take to do that? I mean, the CDC is putting out there, and people are talking about, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, that the curve is flattening, and it was flattening before we did this. And it was flattening at a level that wasn't concerning. But if you continue to press this issue and you continue to skew the information, of course everybody's going to be like, oh my God, we're going to lose 240,000 people. Maybe in the next 3 years, but we're going to lose 180,000 people to the flu. And we're not going to do anything about that.
When will we know if it's effective against COVID-19? Well, officially, likely not for several more months. Clinical trials have already begun in New York. Last week, the Food and Drug Administration also approved hydroxychloroquine for emergency treatment. Yesterday, we also saw Pence announcing that a 3,000-person clinical trial is set to begin in Detroit. Now, that study will likely take at least a few months, but you have a number of doctors saying this is probably for the best. You have people like President of the American Medical Association, Dr. Patrice Harris, saying,
there could be negative side effects. There could be deaths. This is a new virus, and so we should not be promoting any medication or drug for any disease that has not been proven and approved by the FDA. You could lose your life. It's unproven. And so certainly there are some...
Do you hear that? It's unproven. It's people take it. It's not a question of whether someone's going to lose their life. If the doctor that they're going to isn't looking at your health condition saying you need to not take this drug and doing it that way, that's one thing. But just going out there and presenting this type of information is totally irresponsible. She should lose her license, because that's not true. The drug that President is talking about, people take all the time, and they don't die from it. And it is proven. But they're using the idea that people haven't been taking it for COVID-19 to present a message that's just wrong. And it's irresponsible for Phil to be producing and publishing this kind of information that's off the charts stupid. I mean, really. You really don't think the intelligent people of this country, and most of the people in this country, aren't seeing through the baloney and waiting for somebody to actually step up and provide some leadership and tell these people, you people need to stop spreading that misinformation. But they're going gangbusters, and CNN's giving them a platform, and Phil's giving them a platform.
limited studies, as Dr. Fauci said, but at this point, we just don't have the data to suggest that we should be using this medication for COVID-19.
All right, so That's what we're seeing there. As far as what else we're seeing with the
Facts
coronavirus
matter,
right
right?
now, the last thing I want to do on today's show is talk about the general updates that we've been seeing. You know, yesterday we had U.S. Surgeon General Jerome M. Adams on Fox News saying,
"This is going to be the hardest and the saddest week of most Americans' lives, quite frankly. This is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment.
I want you to pay attention to this so you understand how much baloney this is.
All over the country."
You know, we saw Trump making similar comments over the weekend. And actually, regarding the United States, as of 2 p.m. Eastern time, the number of confirmed cases in the U.S.
Now watch this, because I'm going to show you what it actually is.
Total deaths now over 10,000 with 10,335, and the total recoveries at 18,953. Worldwide now over 1.3 million cases. Total deaths 72,638. Total recoveries 273,546. But notably, in the United States, specifically New York, yesterday we saw for the first time Governor Andrew Cuomo announce the first daily dips in death. Though notably, the number of new deaths on Saturday was 630 and only went down to 594 on Sunday. But until we get further into the week, right now there's really no indication as to what that means for the long run for the state. Cuomo saying we're not really 100% sure what the significance is as we're feeling our way through this. Also saying this could just potentially be a blip. But also, New York isn't the only place around the world where people are noticing a change in the patterns for their numbers. Spain is starting to see a slower rate in cases and death as well, with 674 deaths there in the past 24 hours, which is a lot of people, but also notably the lowest increase in fatalities in 9 days. There's some reports saying that this could be a result of effective lockdowns, also saying that these measures could be working in Italy as well, with the New York Times reporting that Italy has seen the numbers of new infections plateau. As far as what this looks like long term, of course we have to wait and see. Especially there are concerns because once this is seen as kind of beaten, or how do you make it so things go back to normal without coronavirus popping up again? Because like a Forbes article went out today,
now he doesn't have enough information because it's starting to go down. Now he's going to talk about, oh, but wait, it could happen again. It's going to happen again.
All the numbers started small. And there's also the question of the validity of the numbers. It's all a mess, but of course we're going to be watching. And that is where I'm going to end today's show. And hey, if you like this video or watching me slowly lose it over time, hit that like button. Also, if you're new here, you want more of these daily videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Definitely tap that bell to turn on notifications. Also, if you're looking for more to watch today, maybe you missed that last Philip DeFranco show where we did a deep dive on the history of pandemics and what we can learn, or maybe just want to watch something lighthearted like one of our new clips. You can click or tap right there to watch one of those. But with that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.
I hope you liked this video. Subscribe if you like it.
All right, so let's take a look at some additional information this morning. We talked again about what we're seeing here. So I just want to bring this up for anybody that's come on new or is watching this video after the show. Again,
hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and in this comprehensive Snapchat ads guide, you're going to learn everything you need to know to get up and running with your first Snapchat campaign.
Sorry about that. Again, this is the trend, right? We talked about here's in 2011 how it was high, and then in 2012 it was low, and then it spiked in 2013, and we didn't do anything. They didn't talk about social distancing then any more than we were already doing. And to believe that people during the cold and flu season aren't practicing social distancing is irresponsible and insulting. And then for many years, it stayed relatively flat. But then in 2018, it spiked. Look at that. It's higher than it's ever been in the last 10 years in 2018, and it's probably that high or going to be higher for 2020. And we're not even close to these numbers. But that's what Phil wants you to believe. Oh my God, the world's going to end because of COVID-19. And he has another show where he's talking about all the other viruses. Now, last time I checked, I didn't take a vaccine for all of the different viruses that have come out of China in the last 10 years. I've never been told by my doctor I need to get in and get a H1N1 virus shot. There is none. It's a flu. The swine flu. It's a flu. So if anything, they're putting maybe the H1N1 in the flu shot, but they're still not making everybody take it. It's still a choice. And our choice is to not take it and then fight off the flu in the event we get it. Because maybe we feel like we have a strong immune system. But you gotta look at all this data, and they're not putting it out there for you. They're not making these statements and then saying, okay, well, here's what it looked like with the flu. Here's what it looks like. Do the same chart with what's going on with the COVID-19. That's what you do when you're a scientist. That's what you do. You don't get on the news and make blanket statements without supporting facts and comparing it to other data. It's irresponsible. They're being irresponsible, and I'm hoping that you'll take from my show that I'm trying to get data out there so that, and just, not that I want you to think you shouldn't be afraid. I mean, I don't really want you to be afraid. I want you to deal with the fact that COVID-19 is out there, and we're going to need to deal with it like we deal with the flu every year. But we're not going to shut the country down, and I'm hoping enough people someday see this to say, yeah, he was right. They were just crazy. People like Phil. Let's see. Now, this was what I was telling you I wanted to get back to in the show. Headline, CDC director downplays coronavirus models, says death toll will be much lower, they're hyphenating it here, much lower than predicted. Models released last week showed the virus could kill 100,000 to 240,000 Americans. The president, when this doesn't happen, the first thing he should do is fire everybody that put that kind of model together. Because that model doesn't tell us when. If they have a model projecting that, where is the curve? They have to, this model would need to show them what the curve looks like, what they're saying it's going to look like, and how long it'll take for us to reach 240,000 people dying. That could be a 2-year projection. And that projection based on current results is wrong. And it will change when they get this data from New York, where it's true, and we already were seeing it before the shutdown, that model will change. If you don't change the model to show when it's going to flatten, if you just simply follow the trend, it's like anything else. Okay, look, it's going up, going up, going up. And if you only put that data in there, then of course it's just going to keep going up. And it's going to go exponentially up. But that's not the right model, and that's not accurate data. One of the nation's top public health officials suggested Monday that because Americans are taking social distancing recommendations to heart, I mean, like we weren't doing that already, but let's highlight it here. The death toll from the novel coronavirus will be much, much, much lower than models have projected. If we just social distance, we will see this virus and this outbreak basically decline. Now, that's an important sentence. We practice social distancing without the government telling us every day. Not to the extent they want now, not to the extent the socialists want us to believe, just to the extent we do it every time the sick time comes of the year, sick time. It's the cold and flu season, people. We will have to practice what we've always done during the cold and flu season forever. And hopefully they'll get their heads out of their you-know-where. I'm just going to say the heads out of their ass and use the drug that they're trying to portray as something that's dangerous for people to take, which is a lie. And that will get the strain into the flu shot so that next year and to be honest with you, they should get the strain in there so we can start taking it in September to be ready for the flu if it starts to come back again in the cold and flu season in the fall. Fall and spring, fall and spring, fall and spring. And maybe more people will get the flu shot now. Maybe they won't take it because there are problems with the flu shot that are documented and people don't like to take it. I sometimes take it, the rest of my family doesn't get it, and that's because that's their choice. And if that's how they feel about it, that's what they need to do. So Redfield's remarks, who is the CDC director, okay? Robert Redfield, the director of the Centers of Disease Control, okay? I think you're going to see the numbers are, in fact, going to be much less than what would have been predicted by the models. And they're not going into detail on what he's saying, but I can tell already from his comments is that he's saying the model's wrong. Redfield's remarks on Monday struck a rosier tone than some other recent predictions. On Monday morning, for example, the U.S. Surgeon General equated the coming week's fallout to the attacks on Pearl Harbor. It's Tuesday, and people are still trying to carry that doomsday message when Cuomo's coming out saying there's a flattening in the curve. The CDC director is saying overall we're seeing a flattening in the curve. If you went to the data, the flattening was occurring before we took all these extreme measures and killed the economy and put people out of work. We're smart enough to handle this, and even the CDC director says social distancing, which again is not a new term. It's just a new term for something everybody's been doing for the flu every year. I mean, everybody's got to get that through their head. We've been practicing social distancing when we're sick since I was born. It's not a new concept. You know, and again, they're throwing in here this tough week. Where is the tough week? We're actually seeing positive information this week. Their data is all wrong. And let's make sure we're clear. Fauci is the director of the National Institute for Allergies and Infectious Diseases. He is not part of the CDC. Or if that group is governed by the CDC, he's not in charge. And other doctors, again, are still hanging on to this idea. But, you know, as a number cruncher, because I've talked about the fact before, I'm a licensed structural engineer. I'm also, I have a minor in computer science, so I'm pretty math-oriented. My whole family is. Doing the math doesn't support what's being put here. Or if this is actually the case, we're not getting out of our homes anytime soon. Because this isn't going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in a week. We are not going to have 240,000 people dead by the end of the week, by the end of the month. Let's see. Now, if you remember the cases that Phil was putting up there, they're not from the CDC. Because I've been talking about this. Here is the website for the CDC, cases in the US, okay? This is what should be putting out there. It's 330,891, and if you can't see that, let's see if we see. Make it a little bigger. 330,891, and the deaths are 8910. And there's still some huge information missing, and I wish the CDC would add this. This should be showing some kind of chart as to when people are getting it and how long it's taking them to recover. Because we've had this now for over a month, and they're not saying who's recovering and how long it's taking them to recover. Because if we look at the charts that are here next, this is a chart of cumulative. This represents a curve of cumulative information. It is not a chart of how the disease is progressing. This just says, okay, every day that we had people get the disease, we added it. So they just keep adding it, and it makes that curve go up. It doesn't represent how the virus is behaving. It just shows a cumulative number. That's all it is. It's not a data for any kind of model. It's just a made-up graph, and it's not really what we need to see. You got to keep going to this graph. This graph shows that even as early as the 1st of March, we were seeing a trend that we had flattening of the curve. Now, of course, it went up, but flattening is not perfect. Doesn't mean we get up and then like this, right? But we're not seeing it staying inside a zone of influence. You can do all kinds of zones. Here's a big zone of influence, curve's going up, but then it's going down. Now, some of this data is not totally collected, and that's why they say until we get the totals, you just need to take it with a grain of salt. Okay, fine. But look at the dip. Okay, so is our zone of influence now moving down? If we have 2 or 3 days like this and that stay in this area, I'd say that trend is actually going down. And that's the model that should be being reintroduced. And the chart showing what the model projects based on this information now from the CDC is what we should be seeing. Okay, and then I was thinking there wasn't any, I didn't get any further with the flu. I think I covered that data. So on that note, I think, again, if you're seeing this video and you've stayed with me this long or you've come in late, I'm just going to ask that you share this with every person you know and let them take the information and search out what I'm presenting and decide for themselves whether they agree with it or not. And Phil, if you can grow a pair, I'd love to be able to come on your show. I'd come there personally. But I know you all are about living at home and staying home and being a socialist, so that's fine. I'm more than happy to do it on any one of the platforms that are available that you probably use, and I'll call in and you can put me on the screen and we can debate this for the American people. And if you really care about the 6 million viewers you have and really care about giving them unbiased information, then why wouldn't you want to have both sides of the story? Why wouldn't you want to have me ask you, so what about the CDC? Why are you putting out information the CDC is putting out? Why are you skewing that information? Why are you acting like this drug is unproven and people are going to die from taking it? And I'll tell them the same thing I said already in the show. People are going to die if you put out an unproven drug. So, back to the idea that I need you to help share this video. I would love it if you'd subscribe and join me every day. I'm hoping you're enjoying what's going on. But please, join me each day, subscribe, like the videos. That helps me get my message out. I mean, all I'm trying to do is get my message out. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything, but I'm trying to get the information out there that counters what's being said here today. And we will continue as the days go by to try to get some response from the government. But if you live in Wisconsin, here's the #1 thing you need to be concerned about right now. The legislature, the governor, and the Wisconsin Elections Commission is not making a decision about what's going to happen on April 15th. And today's April 7th. So in 8 days, they are going to unleash all of the political politicians, that's the dumbest thing I ever said. All of the people who are running for office, for nationally and locally, for every office that's up for re-election this year, they're going to unleash them on the state that they're saying needs to be shut down. Or they're going to interfere with the election process if they don't get rid of the nomination paper process that's currently in place. Now, everything I see flies in the face of what the concerns are and then tries to limit what's going on for the people. So as a politician and for someone who's running for office, and I'm running for Wisconsin District 7 U.S. House of Representatives, I'm not going to make that choice. I'm not going to go and visit people in their homes who may be scared. I'm not going to perpetuate something that's not being offered as the best thing to do. If the government and the legislature is saying we shouldn't be doing that and we need to practice social distancing, we shouldn't be taking pens and paper and clipboards and handing them to people. Going back again to my analogy of money. That's no different than money. You want to spread this disease like wildfire, legislature and governor, you have all those politicians out there getting signatures. So if we're able to shut down the economy, if we're able to put people out of jobs, all you got to do is waive the signature requirement. All the candidates who want to run are going to submit their nomination papers and their declaration of candidacy, and we're done. And now people can get online and they can communicate with people who don't want to have people coming to their homes, and we can respect those people. And we can even then indicate, okay, if you'd like me to come visit you, just let me know. And then you can go to those homes and you can practice social distancing, but you can still get your message out and have that conversation. You can have virtual town halls. You can have virtual town meetings. I mean, the issue is, do we really want people out collecting signatures? It was one thing during the special election. We're in the regular election, meaning every single person, and I'm emphasizing this here, and nobody cares. But I do. So I'm going to promise you this. I am not going to succumb to the idea that I should do that when people are all afraid. And my campaign's not going to do that. And we're going to advocate that nobody should be doing that right now based on what we're hearing and based on the data. Now, if you ask me personally, is that going to be a real problem? No, I don't think it is. I think if you practice social distancing, then made sure things were clean and clean things every time, I mean, it would make it ridiculous. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that you'd literally hand them that, and maybe you got to like put that sheet in a bag that keeps it safe so you get one signature on a piece of paper. So now you're going to have at least 1,000 signature pages that you need to go through. Instead of 10, there's usually 10 signatures to a page. It's just ridiculous. And the reason I'm talking about this is that the total lack of action, the total lack of being in session and being responsible is mind-boggling here, people. If you live in Wisconsin, you should be absolutely furious with your representatives and the governor, okay? I know the governor wants them to come into session, and I know he's there running rampant. Well, that's the problem. He's running rampant, and the legislature's not doing anything. They need to put bills in front of him and let him take responsibility, saying, number one, you're not making these decisions without the approval of the legislature, and let him not sign it, and then vote it in anyway, override his veto, or put it in front of him so that the media and Governor Evers has to answer for why he's not signing it. Now you put it in the responsibility in his court, which makes it easy during the election process to say, we don't want that guy there anymore. But without doing it, they don't have to be accountable. I mean, part of the reason I'm sure that all of these people who are part of the legislature here in Wisconsin and probably other places in the country aren't doing anything is that way they can't get like pigeoned on that, or you know, nobody can go and take them and make them accountable for the decision they made, saying, well, I voted that way because, well, here's the thing, you're not voting, and people are going to hold you accountable for making no decision at all. And that's the last thing we want in government. And being flip-flop and being uninformed and being okay with fear-mongering and misinformation is wrong. And presenting that information like you're helping everybody is crazy. So on that note, again, thank you for staying with me if you're still watching, or thank you if you've watched the video and watched it all the way to the end. And please, again, subscribe and like the video, and please just share this video. And to Phil DeFranco, you know, Phil, we may be filled in, but you know what, buddy? If you can grow a pair, I'd love to debate with you on this topic, and I'd love the opportunity for us to do a show together. I just don't think you're going to do it because you're afraid and you don't want to respond and you want to carry this message so we can all be socialists. But hey, if I'm wrong, bring me on your show, man, or come on my show. I don't care. We can do it here, but you got 6.1 million viewers. Why don't we get it out to those people and see what they have to say about it in the comments, all right? And once again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay informed, and join me again tomorrow. Thank you.